debt.
I'd like to call a meeting of the Assembly Budget Finance Committee to order. And let's start with Kate. Would you introduce?
I'm Kate Geyer, I'm the CFO.
I'm Dan Moore, City Treasurer.
I'm Pamela Ellis, Assistant Controller. Marilyn Bonzoff, OMB.
Amy Demboski.
Tim Steele.
Dick Trainee.
Elvika Jackson.
Pete Peterson.
And in the audience? Okay, anyway, would you like to introduce yourself?
Eugene Haberman, I represent myself.
Okay,
Debbie Kelly, ADM.
thank you. Okay, MLA financial status, CFO, you're on.
Yes, we have members here from the various departments of finance who will talk to you about their particular areas. And then we will conclude with Marilyn, who's OMB, who's looking at year-end lapse and budget to actuals. So Dan is going to start with revenues.
Okay, for the revenues for the city, the last report that Assembly was given was in December. We've waited and we continue to wait for the year-end numbers to really be final, so you don't see a lot of versions of the 2014 year-end. But I can tell you as where we stand as of about a week ago, the revenues for general government, this is for the what we call the 100 funds, is positive $2.7 million. So we came in above budget there, which is good news. And that does not include Fund 181, which is the building permit department. That also was positive. I think it was about 1.6 million, but they are self-sufficient, so we don't normally quote that when we talk about the city budget.
Excuse me, Dan, what was the 1.6 million?
The 1.6 million is for the building safety department.
Oh, okay, building safety.
Yeah, so they were also positive this
181.
year.
Right.
Yeah, but that just, so I had 2.7 million for just sort of the core
General
of
government.
city government, 1.6 million for building safety.
Okay,
And
thank
so
you.
both of those numbers are positive. We do expect to give you sort of the official final result for revenues in the month of March. And that'll be after the accruals have all been processed by the Controller Division. They also have a deferred revenue adjustment that can be significant that's done in early March. So we're just waiting for that to happen, and then we'll come back. You'll actually have a report in March.
Okay, Mr. Trainee had a question.
Fund 601 building safety, is that now complete positive? Because there was a big deficit in it.
It's Fund 181,
181.
and no, it's fine. I can't really speak to that. I don't know if these, either Pam or Marilyn know where it stands. I know they've been rebuilding, but I don't know if they're fully out of the hole yet. Do you guys know?
I don't know, I could take a look at Fund
Just send
601.
us a memo on what it stands.
I wasn't aware that it was in a
It's
document.
181.
181.
Oh, 181.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a full picture on that one yet until all the bookings are in service.
Okay, Mr. Trainee just asked if you could send us a memo on that when you do have that final number, okay? Thank you. Okay, Dan, you can continue.
Okay.
So the last item
Yeah,
is write-offs. Does that number will likely go up or down based on our accrual for write-offs, right? For uncollectible accounts?
Yeah, the Controller Division does an analysis of like property taxes and what was actually collected within the first 60 days of this year. And then that could be positive or negative. And that's where it can be significant because you're talking about property taxes. So, but in the past few years, the adjustment, it's within plus or minus a couple 100,000. It's not big giant numbers, but it could be. It's just hard to know until they've analyzed it.
Could you remind us on what matters you can attach dividends to?
We can attach for permanent fund dividend. We can attach any amount owed to the city where we have a judgment in hand. So for us, we pursue any type of default judgments from the court for criminal fines, traffic fines. I know the parking authority, which is a separate entity, they also do PFD garnishment. We also do it for restitution. So if a person, the city is the victim, and they, let's say they mowed over a city property or something, we can also pursue them for that. So risk management, that department often will try to garnish, and that's for PFD. We also garnish wages, we garnish bank accounts.
Really? I didn't know
yeah,
about the bank
we
account
do,
part.
yeah.
For the same matter?
Same matters. As long as we have a judgment, we can garnish all sorts of different areas.
Okay, and just one comment for those who may or may not know, when it comes to not paying your property taxes, your property is foreclosed upon. The city gets the deed until you pay your taxes, and if you don't pay your taxes, the city owns it. Mr. Steele?
Yeah, my question was, how do you be positive on property taxes? I mean, doesn't it, don't you send a bill out? Would it always be either right on or?
It change, you know, the way the property taxes are generated, it's always an estimate. So it's based on the estimated value of all the taxable property that's out there. Then the assembly sets the mill rate, which is a known fixed amount. You do the calculation, you send the bills out, but there's still some appeal cases that are always outstanding. So those can affect what we actually collect.
But how would you get more
Oh, how would we get
than
more?
what you bill?
Well, because sometimes we always have delinquent prior year taxes, so they're hanging in the system.
Okay.
And so sometimes
I got you.
we might have a good year where some prior year delinquent person all of a sudden catches up.
Yeah.
And that's why. So it's a mixture, not of just current year, but also prior.
Gotcha, thank you.
And then if I could follow up, when we approved the budget in 2015, the property taxes are estimated, and the real numbers come out after we set the mill levy during the first quarter.
Yeah, but okay. You know what you bill, and anyway, whatever.
Okay, continue, please. Thank you.
Through the chair, Mr. Steele, what we bill is not in the budget.
Correct.
Okay. And you're not working from that number, you're working from the estimated number.
That's
Gotcha.
correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you, Kate.
I don't have any other additional highlights on revenues. Like I said, the report you'll get within probably the next 4 weeks, so.
Right, and the treasurer was nervous about getting any revenue numbers at all, so we asked him to please come down and do this. These are real estimates until the controller finishes. We feel good about it, but we wouldn't want to lead anyone to astray to think that number is 2.6 or 2.4.
Right, and let me just say, I think I can speak for the committee, we really appreciate hearing the estimates. Thank you.
Ms. Ellis?
So you want to talk about
Ms.
audit?
Ellis is going to talk about the status of the close and where we are in the audit.
So we're wrapping up the close. We are probably a couple days behind. Primarily it has to do with a couple of new people that have come on board in the last year, learning their position. We're thinking we're probably, like I said, 2 days behind. We may even be a week behind, but it's not.
Before you continue, just so that everybody understands what you mean when you say close, you're talking about the close of the end of the audit.
14th year close,
Right.
to have all of the financial information,
14th.
actuals booked into the general ledger. Right now, what's primarily missing is the interest allocation spread across all the funds for year end. And the mark-to-market adjustments, which is an annual adjustment required by GASB, and some other true-ups to investments. So that's primarily what's missing, and that's citywide. But right now, that is being coordinated with public finance to be, put into the system as soon as possible, PeopleSoft system. We are working around that in all other areas, so it's not a stopgap for completing the financial statements on time at this point. Auditors did come in-house on Tuesday, and they're fully set up and going. I did talk to the lead auditor late yesterday, and I think they're pretty pleased with where we are actually right now, because we are giving them some stuff early right now. Some of the component unit stuff they're going to give quite early, so that's where we're at right now.
So I just have a comment. I'm really glad to hear that, especially considering all the staff that's been used on SAP. So I think that's really good news.
Madam Chair, we took all the staff off SAP and put them on the audit beginning on February 2nd or 3rd.
Okay.
So we guaranteed that controller division would have full 100% staff for February and March. And then they'll start to, when we revitalize the project, which right now I'm not sure if it's May 1 or April 1, they will come back, except for Pam. She will stay until the financial statements are issued, probably in mid-June. And we also have 5 additional, we went out for an ITV for accountants, so we
For 5?
got, for 5, and they're being tiered in. Our Ullman Rogers responded, we got 2 very experienced people from Ullman Rogers, and we're looking at, if Pam approves, then we'll be keeping them on to do backfill, so we'll do contract backfill when SAP begins again. and we'll probably go out for ITB one more time.
And we're still on track with getting the detail statements finally, right?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yeah, okay, thank you. You want to continue?
And Ms. Banzoff is here. She's going to talk to you about where we stand on budget to actuals on an overall basis and where we're going to need to come back to you for a little more money.
Okay, so for budget to actuals for 2014, again, the numbers aren't fully final, but at this time, all departments have came in or under budget with the exception of the fire department. And we are working with that department to understand fully why they had an overage, and at this time, it's about $400,000. And then also, the Health and Human Services Department is over budget by about $6,000. 6,000,
Yeah,
yes.
it was 30, so 6 is good.
Yes, yeah, and that is, it was presented on a previous AR, as you note, and they have been working to manage that number down.
Sure.
So we're expecting it to land about there, but not sure until the numbers settle.
Okay, Mr. Bosky?
I can wait till she's done. I just want to speak to
Okay.
you.
So those are the two departments that we see at this time that we may have to come back to you for. One thing that we noted, that if you were to look at web reporting at this time, we have made an entry into 2014, and it's to represent the bond refunding, and the entry is a grossed up entry to represent the booking of debt for GASB, and it's in the tune of $90 million. And so it's in the debt service lines for the departments that have debts: fire, community manager.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second? Can you just go back and
Yeah.
talk to me in plain speak about what I'm not tracking you at all? Can you, for what you're talking about right now, can you just start over with this line item?
So if you were to look at, and through the chair, Ms. Dombrowski,
Thanks.
before you came in, Ms. Gray Jackson was asking, she didn't look on Universe to see kind of where we stood. And what we're trying to explain to you is Universe has a $90 million ad, so we wouldn't advise that you look at and take information from Universe right now. I don't know, we're working on how that ad got put in the system, but Universe is 90 million high on revenues and 90 million high on expenditures right now, so just don't panic if you look at that.
And let me just add to your comment. When you look on, and you know, you can look at, get to Universe here, but when you, and I'm glad I didn't look, okay? Because if I had looked at it based on what Marilyn just said, it would look like we were way over budget, you know, for 2014. So thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't tracking when you were talking about the web. I'm like, what?
Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't know. And my heart was like pounding. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, as Kate said, that it is offset by revenues, so
Okay.
it's a net zero impact. And I was just going to go through the departments. Basically,
Please
the
do.
departments that have debt service are affected by this entry. So it's fire, municipal manager, parks and rec, police, public works, and transit. So those are the ones that will have that activity in them that may throw those numbers off
There's a bond. Okay.
in the debt service.
So Pam, do you have some reflection on that?
Yeah, so this GASB requires us to record certain transactions into our financial statements when we create our fund level financials. And so whenever we do a refunding, what happens is we have to record the refunding fully grossed up. We record the debt has been extinguished and what new debt has come into the books as an expenditure and as a revenue. And it's done reporting-wise below the line as an other financing source and use. It's not in the main body of your income statement. It's down below the line. Because your measurement focus, you do this because your measurement, GASB says, because your measurement focus is in the current measurement. You want to see everything right now. We're required to show it fully grossed up going out and coming in. We always, in the controller division record this entry at the very last hour of 14th month, so we can get it picked in for fund financial statement reportings, which will be on your detail statements in that section. We do it in that last hour because it will sop up budget at the 4,000 level, which is where we record depreciation and other financing activities, such as debt service payments. So that's why this anomaly looks weird. It's kind of a net zero, but we have to show it in the books for GASB in order to be in compliance with GASB reporting.
So we're asking you not to panic when you say.
Please don't panic.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah.
Okay, so on an overall basis, we presented to you a couple months ago with the mayor what we thought our projected lapse would be. We were using a figure of $2 million so that we could indicate when we needed to make a draw, what the impact would be on our set-asides. So the fund balance number, the lapse number has grown. We have these revenues that we think are going to drop by. We're looking at about $4 million to drop out of the expenditures, and we're trying to get Devin some information on what that is for the snow, how much of that is snow. And so we're looking at, you know, somewhere around the range of 4 to 6 million in terms of a lapse this year, but that's just before everything is closed. So, I mean, I don't know if closing would bring that number to 3, or if final closing would drop that number and bring it to 8. So we're just trying to let you know that the first use of any fund balance is to fill back up those reserves. So I think we were, I can't remember how much we were short on the reserves. I think on 101 it was somewhere around 3.5 million. So what we had intended and scheduled, I believe, is a work session with you in November, March, where we go through and do all those reserve set-aside calculations again. By that time, controller group believes they'll be having firm numbers, and you can stand on them, and we will, you know, show you everything at that point.
Okay, so my question is, our estimate right now, and everybody know this is just an estimate, okay, is anywhere from 4 to 6.
Yes.
Okay, and could very well be 8.
Could be.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, anyone? Ms. Kombosky? You're welcome.
When we're talking about the fire department, it's curious to me that the number pegged that they're over is 400,000, because if I recall, that was about the number we transferred to them for the new paramedics. So when we made that transfer, we were initially told like they were going to be on budget. This would cover that expenditure. Why is it? I mean, it's just very peculiar to me that that's exactly the number that we're hearing they might be over.
So that would be answered by Ms. Bonza.
It's about 470 at this time, but that is one of the things we're examining with the department to answer to that.
So it's 750,000 in 101, and it's, what is it, you're 300 under in 131, and 700 and some odd over in 101. So when Marilyn's talking to you, she's taking all those funds and putting them together and giving you a net number, and it's mere circumstance that it's similar to your number.
It was just peculiar.
Yeah, I completely understand. We just picked that number for you.
I knew you did. I knew you did.
So no matter what, make it that number.
Yeah.
And I just have one comment, okay? Because the risk management fund was over by $2.7 million, and now everything's okay. So in terms of the fire department, you know, that number could change when it's all said and done. Just like the health department was $30,000, now it's only $6,000. So that's something to keep in mind.
That's
why I'm
correct.
bringing it up. Okay, thank you.
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Gowdy?
we're not bringing forward an appropriation to you until the bookkeepers tell us the numbers are solid.
I really appreciate that. Are we done?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, any comments before, because they're going to leave.
Let's hope that's the end of the fiscal year before you get all that information. So we'll be right on.
Mr. Bosky?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. I think this is what exactly what this committee has been looking for the last many years. It's just an open communication, because rather than being caught with surprises, we're not going to hold it out in the press. You said this much.
We'll
But-
ask Devin not to do that.
But it's nice for us to have an idea, a glimpse into what you're working with. So if there is an issue coming, you know, at the end, whether it's more money left or less money, that we are not caught by surprise. it's just very nice to have this open communication.
It's
So
a
thank
key
you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Muskie, Mr. Trainee.
Kate, the openness is nice, we appreciate that. Thanks for coming on to work with the city as CFO. Before, we would not be having this pleasant discussion, but thank you. It's good to have you here.
And I really appreciate the openness, and I like this arrangement where folks from each area are presenting to us. It just makes a whole lot of sense, so thank you. And one question, in terms of the investment report, I know we get a report in our agenda packets, but maybe next month we can have a little report on that also. And that's okay that we're not having now, because I know that things are a little bit behind, but next month I'd like to see Ross here to give him his report to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, well, have a good afternoon. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the draft resolution from the VAC property taxes. And if I may, here's what I thought when we had our last meeting, Mr. Tamagi. I thought that it was a resolution that the VAC had drafted for the Assembly to present as an official Assembly document. That's what I thought it was, but when I saw the email yesterday, it's a resolution from the BAC. So would you like to talk a little bit about it? And everybody's gotten a copy of it, so.
Well, I think that it's pretty self-explanatory that, we voted to present that under our guidelines of the ordinance for our committee to the mayor and to the assembly. So that's where it went. And so, as far as I know, why I think it covers everything that we had intended it to.
Okay, Mr. Steele?
Yeah, it doesn't do any good if it doesn't go to the state. Pardon? It doesn't do much good if it doesn't go to the state.
That's exactly correct. There are, some small things that can be addressed locally without the state, but I think you want to do everything encompassing. And so that would require some action by the state legislature.
I'm sorry?
Maybe the mayor will send it.
Al, I'm sorry, I was having a side conversation with Mr.
Oh, that's
Trainee,
fine, yeah.
so if you can, restate what you just said, I really would appreciate it.
Well, I believe that, the idea was to get the municipality to approve the resolution to send down to the legislature and to the governor requesting some changes in the Alaska statutes on property taxation.
Okay. And the way, first off, this is the BAC's resolution, okay? The BAC can, on your own, send this to the legislature and the governor, okay?
Well, I think if you
But
could-
well, let me continue.
Sure.
But if the BAC is requesting that the Assembly come forward with our own resolution, which is what I thought, that's a whole nother story. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because this is your resolution. Mr. Trainee, did you have a comment?
Just, why don't we take this resolution, draft our own, send it to the Assembly, get Assembly approval, let's send it to Judah on behalf of the Assembly. You can reference this came from the BAC.
Right.
But I'd like to have the whole Assembly agree to this, our position on this, and send it down to Judah.
No, I agree, and as I said, that's what I thought was what the resolution was already. Mr. Bossi, do you have any comments on this?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering, it says here on the second page that the pilot agreements only include tax categories for police, fire, and public works. Why did we just choose the other categories?
Well, I think what we have, what we have done in our report and taken a look at what other entities have done for payment of taxes, that they implemented programs that certain nonprofits pay a fee for police, fire, and public works. And it's worked pretty well in those states that have done that, and that's all in the actual report itself. There are prototype documents and examples and all of that information. Because when you take a look at the reports that we got from the municipality, there's a lot of money out there. And there are probably some monies out there that aren't even on the tax roll. Because the assessor's office, and we did get a copy of that audit report in 2012 from the internal auditor. Of that audit report, I think you could ask for a copy of that, LD.
We haven't gotten it, but
So I've got a copy at the office, I think
I can get it from Pete Rasmus upstairs.
And I think that if you take a look at that report, in fact, we got that just here last week. I went up and it's on the internet, you can download that. It virtually says a lot of the same things that we are doing here. I would recommend it. And there's probably some extra efforts that need to be directed at the assessor's office and perhaps some additional assistance. And it might be necessary, but it certainly would be cost benefit wise to do it. I'd also like to hand out, I just got this a month ago, what some of the new provisions are with the Internal Revenue Service. It used to be that to become a nonprofit, you had to fill out a 26-page report to get your nonprofit status. Now there's just 3 pages, and it's on Form 1023EZ. So that now, instead of doing 26 pages to get your nonprofit exempt or apply to, you only got to do a 3-page request. So I think that's going to be an enhancement for more entities to file for, a nonprofit status. And the bottom line on this is that there's a lot of things we're subsidizing that we shouldn't totally subsidize. And I think that's the key. We take a look at this big lot. It's old. It's happened in 1976, I believe, or so. And the reduction of revenue sharing and all of those other entities that are going to be happening because of the drop of income at the state, then it's on our shoulders. And I think that we're saying is that, let's get everybody involved, everybody pay a little bit possibly. So that's kind of where we are and how we did, pursuant to the ordinance. We gave you guys, the information we had prepared, you didn't err. So, and I would encourage you to, whatever type of resolution that you do, the Assembly does its own. And this is only our draft, you folks.
Right, thank you, Al. Our clerk is getting copies of the 2012 audit, so we all have it readily available to us. She'll be down back in a minute. Mr. Train, you got a comment?
Also, you said the system used to require 26 pages, now it's down to 3?
Yes.
I never heard of DC ever making things smaller.
It's really, it's almost a shock. But
Has the time frame been collapsed down too? Because it used to take a long time to get it approved.
I don't know. This article doesn't say anything about the time, but I had this article here for a while, and I thought I'd better. It's from the IRS commissioner. So it sounds like, from what he says, most new charities will no longer be screened at startup. In other words, what they're saying, that you apply and that's it. So that's a really loosening of the regulations to get a nonprofit status. And apparently they're not going to have an enhanced interest in honoring those either. So then it comes back on down to us.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Al.
Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was just thinking that, in the old days when you had an organization that was trying to become 401c3 or whatever, you pretty much had to have a lawyer fill out the paperwork to get all that taken care of. Now if we're down to 3 pages that you can fill out online, It sounds to me like they're making it much more user-friendly, and then we're going to end up with potentially many more nonprofits than what we had before.
Okay, any other comments? Mr. Steele?
Yes, with regards to the specifics of the sprinkler issue, I know we had talked a little bit about it at committee meeting and that type of thing. Does that go on forever, or is that based upon the cost of the installation of the sprinkler system?
It goes on forever, and it's probably a carryback to where the code did not require sprinklers to be installed. And so as a financial incentive, they gave that 2% off the taxes of the improvements on the property as incentive to put sprinklers in. So I don't know, didn't have the time to research how long that had in effect. It's been a requirement of the building code for a long, long time.
It just seems to me that you ought to be able to pay off that investment, but after that, you shouldn't be making money on it.
There's a lot of old buildings in here that they've probably been paid off and they're still there. So I think, the aspect is that might be one of the steps that you can take and to ratchet that down over, say, a period of 2 years. And like maybe 50% off. In other words, reduce that by 50% in 2015 tax year, and then eliminate it in 2016, or do it in 2016, 2017.
Even with the incentive that we're doing for the distressed property codes that we're doing, like in Fairview and talking about doing elsewhere, they give them 10 years. I mean, it's a 10-year thing, and beyond that, you got to get your write-offs done. And it seems to me if the sprinklers go on forever, that you could do the same type of thing, like you said, a couple of years or something. That seems like something we ought to instill, or ought to put in code if we can.
All of these brand new buildings going up, in town, these office buildings, they're going to get that exemption. So there's probably, with the new buildings and all that on there, probably the numbers that we had was about $546,000. And so, $546,000, getting that back over a number of years, say 2 years, well, I think that's fine. But, to drop a bomb on them all at one time, I think would be,
And codes are requiring it anyway, so.
Right, exactly. So,
Before I go to Mr. Trainee, I have a question for you. When your committee did the research on the report, did you do any research as far as finding out how long this has been in effect, or answering some of the questions that were just asked just now?
I think you'd probably have to talk to people, the departments.
Right.
We didn't have, we done this all free.
No, and I'm not saying that you should have.
And we didn't have the time to go back and say, when did this go into effect? But
Right.
I think that you might check with Public Works.
Well, let me just say this before you continue. I just wanted to ask the question, but I can find out the answer to this pretty quick.
Good.
So, and I'm going to, but thank you. Mr. Trainee?
Madam Chair, why don't we just send a request to the Finance Department to find out the amount of money involved, how long when this went into effect, and the duration of this exemption. Because I can see them recapturing the cost. If it goes beyond that, it becomes crazy. So let's get the numbers and how it's applied, and see if, 10 years may be an option. But once they recapture the money,
Right.
it should terminate.
But if it's
Right.
mandated, then you
I-
shouldn't even get that, but. that's
Right,
okay.
I'll make an official request, but I'm gonna make some phone calls on my own.
I think it's the
First.
assessor, the
Yeah.
assessor and probably building.
I mean, as we know, sometimes things have been written and they forget about it along the way.
Right. Okay, so, and I don't think we have to vote on this, but here's what I'm recommending to the committee that we do in terms of the resolution, that we get our own resolution drafted, and we present it, thank you. And we present it at our meeting on March 3rd for introduction and approval. But, everybody will get a copy in advance.
Good.
Okay, does everybody agree with that?
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Mr.
the
Peterson?
two things that I highlighted in our discussion was the 501c or the break that the nonprofits get. If what he's saying is correct, then I don't know how we look at the nonprofits. If they got it in code, we either have to give it or not, change it in some respects. But the sprinklers is an issue I think we
Right.
can get
Well,
a handle on.
Okay, well, what I'm gonna do is have the resolution, the draft, sent to the committee, for comments before we put it on the agenda. Okay? All right, and here's a copy of the 2012 audit, and I'll get copies for everybody at sometime today. Okay?
I could email you the link. I could email the link to
To the committee?
or I could
Okay,
make
no.
a PDF of it.
Actually, if you can just send the link to the committee,
Okay.
that would be great, and we can pull
Okay.
it up online and save some paper. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Flaggy?
There's, under 501C, there's 27 categories. And so I think that's, there's,
Not just C.
it's just C3s, there's all the way up to 27, so. Thank you much.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from the committee members? Okay, audience participation? Okay, well, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you for being here, everyone, and have a good afternoon.